Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Healthy Tampa Bay podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kerry Reller. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. Mikel Segal. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, we're super happy to hear about you and everything you have to say. And why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Hey, well, thanks for having me on again. Yeah, so my name is Mikel, and I am a physician and coach. I'm based in Canada, Vancouver. Part of the time, I'm still working clinically in the hospital. I'm trained as a family doctor, so I've done a variety of different work since I graduated, working in clinics, working in more rural places, and now I've landed in the hospital as a hospitalist. But my passion right now is coaching. So I've, over the past just over 5 years, I sort of discovered coaching and felt like it was really my calling. I do love medicine, but I feel like coaching, along with my medical background, really
Mhm.
allows me to help people in just exponential ways. And so I've done a bunch of different coaching certifications, and now I've started my own coaching program. I'm going to be launching pretty soon a cohort for midlife women. And I have two kids and love traveling, exploring the outdoors, doing anything in nature, really. But we're right near the mountains, so I love to ski, I love to hike. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, totally different than being in, Florida, sunny, different kind
Yeah,
of skiing, but
yeah,
very, very exciting. And I mean, given what you do with the coaching program, you can really speak with anybody anywhere. That's what's kind of nice about it. You can help everybody, right?
it is. Yeah, you
Yeah.
reach people that you normally can't reach. So that's one of the things I love about it. Just connecting with people all over the world and yeah, being able to help people that you wouldn't have been able to help.
Yeah. What made you kind of transition? I mean, you didn't fully transition or anything, but from traditional medicine to doing this as well.
So I was working as a physician for quite a while, but I always sort of had an interest in sort of a more holistic approach
Mhm.
to treating. And it's hard to do that in the traditional medical role. And so ever since I graduated, I was always kind of found myself drawn to sort of learning about, well, I've been very interested in like longevity medicine, which is kind of more cutting edge. It's not really incorporated into the traditional medical ways of practicing. But I've always been interested in that and lifestyle medicine and just finding ways to incorporate that in order to support people. And then I was at a lifestyle medicine conference maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, and someone presented on coaching, and it just kind of opened my mind. I was like, wow, I could see myself doing that. I could see how useful that would be in sort of supporting people, and it kind of all just came together. Since then, I've been working on ways to be able to help people in the best way possible.
So how is coaching different than doctoring?
Well, it's different in a number of ways. For one, the medical system in Canada, as you know,
Mhm.
is quite different than in the States.
Mhm.
So if I work outside of the medical system, I have a lot more flexibility in terms of how much time I can spend with people. But I think with coaching, you can really address the whole person and really, because I feel like one of the themes that's come up a lot for me that I feel is really important is really people want to get healthy generally. A lot of now, especially with there's so much information out there, like accessing information is not really the issue. I mean, you want to learn how to eat well. You kind of need to know who to listen to and who to follow, but you can get that information. But then how do you integrate it into your life? So you kind of need that piece. Most people need a lot of help with that piece. So once you have the information, it's how do you integrate it into your life and make it something that you can like make it possible for you to do that. But one of the things that I feel like is especially going to be more, we're going to sort of, it'll be more obvious as we sort of progress down this road of like AI and all the new technology that's coming up, because I
Mhm.
think our health, like our healthcare and our health is going to transform in the next 3 to 5 years just with all the technology. So people are going to be living longer, and it will be easier for people to access all of this stuff that's going to enable them to be healthier and live longer. But then we really need to get at the core of our nervous system, how we live our lives, what is our purpose, what is the meaning. And so I think with
Mhm.
coaching, it's a very long-winded answer, but I think with coaching, you can get the diet, the exercise, all that, and then with all the new technology, our health is going to improve. But with coaching, we can really access our nervous system and our mind and enable ourselves, if we are living longer, healthier, we can enjoy our life and find meaning and purpose in our life. So I think coaching just allows that holistic approach to sort of, and especially with a medical background, you kind of know what the information is, you can share it, you can have an approach that's, doable for the person, and you're able to kind of get at that core of like, why are we doing all this and
Mhm.
what's meaningful for us, and so we can enjoy our lives. So for me, I feel like it's just the whole package.
Yeah, the whole package, the whole person. And it sounds like people may be living longer, but what could really help with the coaching and the things that you're saying is improving that quality of life of living longer, right? So all these things that you can do and learn and tapping into the nervous system, like you were saying, can help that. So could you, I guess, explain a little bit more about how you do that with clients?
Yeah, well, I think there's a number of different approaches or
Mhm.
depending on what the situation is. But I think sort of figuring out what your values are, what brings you joy in life, why you're doing what you're doing, like what gives meaning to your life. So sort of being able to have that figured out. So you kind of have a compass in terms of the way you live, and then sort of finding ways to manage the stressors, because obviously everybody has stressors in their lives. Some people, everyone has certain traumas that they've experienced. Some are big traumas, some are little traumas, but find and then maybe they get activated. So finding ways to, when you do have a stress or some sort of activation, how do you calm yourself? So I mean, one good example is using your breath, and
Mhm.
we know that kind of if you can do controlled breathing, if you take, a slow breath in and a longer, deeper, slower breath out, that automatically shifts your nervous system into the parasympathetic, the rest and digest mode, and just can shift everything in terms of your physiology. So that's an easy one to sort of start with for most people. But just focusing on things like that and things that sort of like different mindfulness practices that bring people into the present moment, because often our brains are either in the past or in the future, worrying about something that's going to happen in the future, or, rehashing things that have happened in the past. So finding ways to connect with the present moment is also another good way to kind of shift your nervous system.
Can you give some examples of that, like in the present moment?
I mean, the first thing is awareness. So for some people, you can use kind of cues. So you can say, like, well, every time I open a door, that's going to be my cue to check in with myself and see where my brain is or see where my mind is. So you get the cue, and then you can say, what am I thinking about? What are my thoughts doing? Or am I thinking about the future, worrying about something, or am I thinking about the past? And then again, the easiest way or simplest way to bring yourself into the present moment is just bring yourself into your body. So just notice some things that you feel in your body. You can do a quick body scan, but your body is always in the present moment. So if you can just think about what's going on in your body, notice any pressure, any hot or cold, that will immediately bring you into the present. So that's a quick way to do it. So again, you can just find a cue to remind you,
Mhm.
like something that you do every day, and that could be your moment to check in with your body, and that will bring you into the moment and out of the monkey mind, we call it. Sort of that's kind of either always think about the future or the past. So
Yeah. That makes me think of like habit stacking and things like that. But I
yeah,
like the cue as well. And I think that's
yeah.
a good way to check in more often than I probably would consider doing it. So that's really helpful. And then you mentioned like breath work and meditation. Are there some other things that you would suggest too?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to find something that works for you. There's, again, with stress management, you kind of want to figure out what's draining you or what's kind of
Mhm.
causing your stress. And if there's anything that's sort of adding to your stress that you can change or get rid of, that's always a good kind of thing to review every once in a while as well. Like, so what is sort of adding to my stress burden, and are any of these tasks or issues anything that I can either change or get rid of? And so it's always good to do that every so often. And so that's another kind of little thing you can do. It's not so much in terms of like managing your nervous system, but it does because, if you have these th things that are you're thinking about, then it can sort of help. And then I also really, really like using self-compassion or mindful self-compassion, which is just a way of kind of being kind to yourself and just reminding yourself that you're part of, you're a human being,
Mhm.
you're connected to humanity. Everyone else sort of has feelings of sadness or stress, and just reminding yourself that I feel is very empowering in a way. So I like to use self-compassion quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, certainly an important, concept, especially if you're focusing on midlife women. Everybody,
Yeah.
learns how to pick apart themselves rather than have compassion for themselves, especially that type of, women and the age, I think it's very, very common. So you mentioned lifestyle medicine. What role does nutrition, movement, and sleep kind of play in your holistic approach?
It's kind of the core, the bottom, the pillars of having and building a healthy life. So you can't really get to the other things unless you've established that your nutrition and your sleep and your movement, your exercise is there and where it should be. So it's definitely the place to start because you need to have solid foundation before you kind of move into any other area. Like if you're not sleeping well, you're not going to be able to really benefit from the nervous system things because even if you're just short like half an hour of sleep, your anxiety, I mean, your whole body shifts. We know now that sleep is so important for all areas, all parts of our cells in our body. So just small amounts of missed sleep can cause huge shifts in our body. So we really need to focus on the sleep, the nutrition, like getting whole foods, nutrient-rich foods, trying to avoid processed foods, trying to cut down on sugar, all that kind of stuff. And then make sure you're moving your body every day and not just, in spurts, but throughout the day as well. So yeah, so that's kind of the core and the place to start for sure if you're kind of wondering where to start.
I mean, you can see definitely a compounding effect of some of those things if they're not in place,
Yeah.
at the beginning. So with, your clients, what are some common limiting beliefs that you feel like that they would repeat?
Well, I think for a lot of, well, especially like midlife women, they just feel a lot of them just think, oh, this is just me getting older, oh, this has happened, oh, this has happened, oh, I guess this is just a part of getting older. So that's one thing I think is very sort of pervasive thought, which I feel is something that can be shifted, especially when you realize there's so much out there now in order to enable people to feel better. So don't just accept like acceptance, I think. But I think also a lot of women, spend their whole lives doing things for other people, whether it's their parents, their kids, their siblings, their partner. And so trying to shift into kind of empowerment and really realizing that focusing on your own health and your well-being actually sort of has a compounding effect and will help, really improve the lives of everyone you care about and just shifting that, like not feeling guilty about taking time to work on yourself. And then I think women have all sorts of different ideas about food and nutrition. And so, just again, focusing on trying to eat as healthy as you can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, all those things, trickle down and affect all the people around you. So really taking care of yourself first is super important, like you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you kind of, as a weird question, but how do you help people rewire their mindset for success?
Kind of like what I was saying before, I think in terms of rewiring, it firstly is sort of shifting the nervous system.
Hmm.
So most like getting out of fight or flight mode. I think a lot of women are in that mode, they don't even realize it. So I think kind of first getting their nervous system so they're not sort of always in that heightened state. And when you've kind of shifted it, that allows, like, we know that the brain is more creative in that kind of mode, is more open to possibilities and problem solving. So once you kind of shift that, then you can kind of work on, well, what is holding you back? Like what are the thoughts that you're having that are preventing you from creating the life you want or getting healthy in the way that you want to get healthy, or disrupting your relationships or whatever it is that's the main issue. So then you can kind of work on whatever limiting belief there is there, or thoughts about themselves that maybe are not true.
Do you have any success stories of a patient or a client who kind of transformed their life or journey through your coaching approach?
I mean, so my coaching, yeah, I mean, I've had quite a few one-on-one clients that have
Mhm.
really kind of just blossomed. Like, I was working for a while with a lot of physicians, so there's a lot of burnout in physicians. And I had one that I'm thinking of who she was so burnt out, she was ready to quit. She was kind of referred to me by someone she didn't really even know about coaching before, but we kind of worked together. And again, it's kind of a holistic approach, working on her, all the different pieces of her life that were contributing to her feeling burnt out. And again, with the same approach, like the lifestyle changes and the mindset shifts and the nervous system shifts. And yeah, she's doing amazing. I think she was just applying for like a leadership role. So she's kind of
Mhm.
completely shifted how she's feeling. And so it's been really amazing to see that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, as far as like specific advice, can you think of any like actionable steps listeners can like take today to start optimizing their health?
Well, I think first off is to sort of check in where you're at. So if you're
Mm.
just getting going on this road, then I would say check in and start with sleep, your nutrition, and your
Mhm.
exercise, and pick one thing that you can do that's easy. So I always say, like, start with something easy. Like, you don't want to start with the hard, because most people are like, oh yeah, I'm all in, and then they pick something and for 2 weeks they do it and then they stop. So pick something that's like a no-brainer, that's going to be easy to shift. And then, get your confidence up and then make some other little changes. And don't try to do too much at once. So
Right. Yeah. I was gonna say, don't pick 10 things, right? Pick,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what else do you want to share? Like anything on the longevity approach or anything else you want to share with the listeners?
Well, I think I mentioned, like, the what's gonna happen in the next 3 years. I was
Hmm.
just at the longevity conference in December, and it seems like the next 3 years are going to be huge in terms of what's coming out in terms of cancer treatments, Alzheimer's, like our neurodegenerative diseases, like just reversing everything, which is just like, for me, that was a real mindset shift, because it seems like, at least in that community, it's really just recognized that most people will be able to live well beyond 100 within 3 years. So I think that just requires, again, a bit of reflection in terms of, well, if we are going to be most of us are going to be living to past 100, what does that mean for our lives and what do we want? And so even just that alone, like thinking about that, well, then how are you going to live your life and what's important to you? And obviously, when people hear that, they think, well, I don't want to live past 100 because I'm going to be like in a wheelchair and demented. But I think the idea is that you won't be, so if you can envision that, like yourself thriving at 100, which we don't have a lot of examples of that, right? Um,
Mm.
so I think for some people it's hard to envision that. But if we can envision that, then what does that look like for us? So I think just even starting with that is a good start. And then, we can get to sort of the how that's going to happen. And right now there's already sort of different things that you can do, like, hot exposure to heat and cold and hyperbaric oxygen. Like there are things even now that are fairly accessible for people that want to just kind of increase their health and stack their, different things that they can do to improve their health. But I think for me, the bigger thing is like what do you picture for yourself if you're going to be healthy at 100?
Yeah, my one of my colleagues always like to say, like, what does their 90th birthday look like? Well,
Yeah,
now she'll have to change it to 100. But
it
why do you
will.
think they said like 3 to 5 years?
I think, well, they said 3 years because I think like
Mhm.
they're already starting to, I think it's just the AI that's going to be coming up in the next 3 years and the technology and like they're already starting trials, human trials and for some of these things where they're, basically targeting metastatic cancers or they're reversing brain changes, early brain, signs of neurodegenerative disease in the brain. So my guess is it's
Oh,
just that technology is going to be there
yeah.
soon. Yeah.
Was this at the Vegas A4M or something? Okay.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Cool. Yeah. I guess 3 years, huh? That's
Yep. Get ready for it.
so does that mean like, okay, they're gonna be changing some things? Like, where does that put? So it looks like it might put your clients, like midlife women, in a good place. Where does
Mhm.
that put like our baby boomers at? Are they
That's a good
doomed?
question. No,
Or do they all need to be reversed or what?
yeah, I think that the idea, well, again, it wasn't like a detailed like lecture on how this is going to happen. It was just sort of the general feel and the comments that were said. But my sense was, if we're talking about boomers who maybe have signs of, neurodegenerative disease, well, that can be reversed. I don't know to what extent, or metastatic cancers, that kind of stuff. So
Hmm.
we'll see. I don't
Well,
know.
very exciting and interesting to see what comes down the line and,
Yeah.
by
Yeah,
2028.
exactly.
That just sounds so soon. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today?
No, I think that I really enjoy this conversation. If you're curious to find out more about what I do, then I'm happy to connect with anyone who wants to hear more. I'm going to be launching a program for midlife women soon. So if you're interested in hearing more about that, then just reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.
And how can they find you if they want to work with you?
Well, I have a website, so it's www.mikelsegalmd.com, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So Mikel Segal MD on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. Everybody tune in next week for next week's episode. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. It's great
Okay.
to be here.
All right.